Can you think back to junior year of high school for me? What do you remember? Maybe you're thinking about what you did for prom or AP Physics. But more likely you're going to think about the most important aspect of your academic career thus far, standardized tests. We can all remember sitting in the anxiety-filled classroom of some random school across town, sweating as our futures are about to be laid out in front of us because of a singular multiple choice exam. Thoughts of these standardized tests linger in the back of our minds all year amidst focusing on our rigorous courses, time-consuming extracurriculars, and utterly important social life. In the past decades, these standardized tests have become such a huge part of students' lives and worries. Just one test can potentially alter a student's entire career. Isn't it crazy that we are putting that immense amount of pressure on children and teenagers? A student can have the best work ethic you've ever seen, be the hardest worker, and have the best attitude towards school and learning, but not be a good test taker, and in turn not get into a good college. I'm sure some people watching this can relate. Today, I'm going to discuss with you why we should get rid of standardized testing and what we should focus on when evaluating academic success in the future. For decades, research has shown that test scores do not accurately reflect teaching and learning. On standardized tests, all test takers answer the same questions under the same conditions, usually in a multiple choice format. Such tests rewards quick answers to superficial questions. They do not measure the ability to think deeply or creatively in any field. Their use encourages a narrowed curriculum, outdated methods of instruction, and harmful practices, such as grade retention and tracking. A Brookings Institution study found that 50 to 80% of year-over-year test score improvements were temporary. Leading up to standardized tests, teachers overwhelm their students with information to study that will appear on the test. Students typically end up binge studying and not retaining most of the information. If a student were given a standardized test 1 week after binge studying for one night, their scores would be significantly lower, as they did not actually retain any of the information that they had learned. Furthermore, most students understand that they can rarely apply the knowledge they learned for the test to real-life scenarios, making them even less eager to make the information stick. Overall, the learning and the practices for learning the information for standardized testing is not helpful in a real learning environment. As we look more into standardized testing with doubt, even more problems arise. These tests, created to be exactly equal among students, requires the assumption that everyone is receiving equal education. Unfortunately, not everyone learns the same material in high school, and often the test measures differences in educational background and family resources instead of the prospect for success in college in the future. Some areas offer much better education than others, putting higher income students at an immediate advantage. Higher income students also have access to more resources, such as student materials and private tutors, and are much more likely to have family members who have attended college and have been through the testing process before. Kelly Keglovis, a writer for the University of Texas, states that there's evidence that shows standardized tests are also racially biased. In the past year, the average SAT score for white students has remained the same, while the scores of African American students have declined. Overall, the average score for African American students trails that of white students, even in situations where both parties are of equal economic and academic backgrounds. Overall, all the problems with standardized tests bring to light that the issue is with the tests themselves and not the students who are taking them. Not only that, in the recent decades, people have placed more emphasis on mental health than ever before. I'm almost 100% sure that everyone watching this video has felt the negative effects of standardized testing on mental health. Scientifically, it's difficult to track an increase in academic stress. It's impossible to measure exactly the ways school, parents, and peers create anxiety in teenagers. And of course, it's impossible to quantify feelings. But one way we can measure is by looking at the increase in standardized testing and the observations of counselors, doctors, and parents. A 2009 study conducted by the University of Hartford psychology professor Natasha Segul of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in Michigan found that students reported being significantly more anxious when taking statewide assessments compared to other classroom tests. About 11% of the children surveyed reported severe psychological and physiological symptoms tied to the assessments. Overall, around 89% of the students experienced a heightened reaction in the testing situation. Additionally, a 2019 poll done by educator organization Phi Kappa Delta found that around 70% of public school parents felt that there's too much emphasis placed on standardized testing in public school environments. Overall, parents, educators, researchers, and doctors alike find significant links between standardized testing and increased stress in children and teenagers worldwide. Instead of using standardized tests to measure academic success or to be used in college applications, we should focus more on performance and improvement in classes. How much are they challenging themselves with rigorous courses? And how do the teachers see the students' work ethic and responsibility in the classroom environment? Instead of making students take this so-called standardized test and burdening kids and teenagers with test anxiety, we should take more time looking at students' grades and their improvements in grades and the type of courses they're taking, like such as AP, pre-AP, IB, or other college-level courses. We should also be focusing on holistic reviews done by teachers, because after all, nobody spends more time with the students than their teachers. Teachers know more about students' habits, attitudes, and work ethic more than a single multiple-choice test can measure. Moreover, students in other fields such as art, music, and foreign languages are at a clear disadvantage when their performance in their own fields is indicative of outstanding work ethic and ability, something that a multiple-choice test cannot show. The thing is, every student is unique, whether it's learning styles, home life, mental struggles, talents, abilities, and endless other differences. Based on these differences, using a singular test to determine admission into college seems so barbaric. Luckily, the times are already changing. After the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we have seen so many top-tier universities starting to bring an end to requiring test scores in their applications. They know the facts, and they have seen how test scores correlate to academic ability and success. And yet they are still choosing to go away with them. So now, it is time for everywhere else to catch on, so we can start building a healthy academic future for our kids and future generations to come. Thank you.